Now that you're a little bit more comfortable with the pen tool, we're going to go ahead and start our comic character project. What you want to do is first choose a subject. You could do a self-portrait on this if you wanted to. We can take a picture of you. You could actually use the camera on the computer if you want to, but if you want a better quality, we can have you go into the studio with a good camera and we'll have a photography student or one of your classmates take your picture. Just let me know if you're interested in that. Otherwise, you can do a celebrity. I got a picture of Star-Lord here from Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm going to use this as my subject. One thing you want to keep in mind, you want this to be a portrait and you want it to be up close. So it's like a head and shoulders shot. You don't want like a full body or having them standing back. That will not get a good result, and I think you'll have a hard time with that. So just choose your subject carefully, get a high quality image. And the first thing we want to do is we want to size this. So if I go to image size, and check the size, I have a random size here, and my resolution is 72, and I want a resolution of 300. So I will use the crop tool for that. And let's just go ahead and make this 8.5 by 11 inches. With our 300 pixels per inch resolution. Okay, so the raccoon in this picture is going to create a little bit of a challenge for me, but it was the best image that I was able to get of him that was this kind of head and shoulders portrait shot in a high quality. So I just decided to take on the challenge and see what happens with it. Okay, so now I have it sized correctly. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to remove the image from the background, and I've already done that. So if I turn off my original, I do have it removed from the background, and I'm going to rename that to Color Original. And then I will duplicate that. And I'm going to rename this to Black and White Original, or B and W Original. It's not black and white yet, but it will be in a second. All right. Okay, so I have my original image with the background. I've got my Color Original removed from the background, and then I have a Black and White Original. Okay, so on my Black and White Original, I want to make this black and white. So we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and then go down to Desaturate. And you want to do this even if you are working with a black and white image, because sometimes when you grab a black and white image off the internet, if you zoom way in on it, you'll see that there is some color data in the pixels. So we want to make sure we desaturate, and that way we don't have any of that. Okay, now that we've desaturated it, we're going to duplicate it again, and we'll call this Black and White Contrast. And we'll be working on that black and white contrast image. And we did this, all the duplicating, just in case we make a mistake or we can't get back to where we want to be. We'll have these down here if we need to get back to them. So we're not having to start back from scratch. All right, so they're just there as insurance, as a safety net. All right, so let's go ahead. While we're on the black and white contrast, we want to make this really contrasty, very much like we did with the Warhol project. If you can remember the Warhol project, there are some similarities here, but we won't be painting. We'll be using the pen tool and creating vector objects for the color. But we do want a more black and white contrasty image, and we want to get rid of these gray tones. Okay, so our first step is going to be to go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness, and Contrast. And I'm going to start by turning my contrast up as high as I can. I'm going to try it all the way up at 100. So for this particular image, moving it all the way up to 100 doesn't like make it too dark, and I don't lose any data. Like I can still see his nose, I can still see his mouth, and so you're looking for that important information. You want to make sure that you're not getting rid of it too much. And then I'm just going to turn up the brightness as much as I can without washing it out too much. Like that's too much right there. And so I want to turn it up as much as I can. So probably right there would be a good place for it. And I'm going to say okay. And so already I can turn that off and compare it to my original, and I can see I'm making progress on this. I got rid of a lot of the gray just by doing that. But I'm not done. I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and this time I'm going to Curves. We have not done much work in curves yet. So one thing you can do in curves is you can use these eyedroppers right here. Actually, let me cancel and zoom in. I want to zoom into a spot where I can see some black areas, some white areas, and then some details. So probably right in here. All right, so let me go back into curves. Image Adjustment, Curves. And with these eyedroppers, this first eyedropper all the way on the left is you're telling, when you click out here, you're telling Photoshop that I want this to be my darkest information. So if I click on a black area, like the raccoon's eye, very little changes. So that wasn't exactly completely black because I saw a little bit of change. But if I move into a grayer area, it's going to get a lot darker. If I say, okay, I want this pixel color to be my darkest area, it just made that color plus any other color or pixel data that was darker than that black. Okay, now if I don't like that, I can get back to that. I know the raccoon's eye is pretty black, so I can click back on that black area. Looks pretty black up here. So if I click there, it's telling me, I'm telling Photoshop, make black, any black pixels, my darkest color. If I click out here, the whole thing's probably going to turn black or close to it. Okay. So click around, maybe try to pull this into a dark gray, but not, you don't want to make it too black or lose any information. Okay, so probably that would be good. And then I'm going to the eyedropper all the way to the right, and that is you're setting your white. So if I click on white, you won't see any change. But if I click on the gray, it's going to make everything that color gray plus anything lighter completely white. Okay, so again, click around and be really careful with this part because again, we don't want to lose his nose, his mouth. Okay, so I'll probably keep it about right there. And then get it back on page, Command 0. And then let's see what we've got now. So we've gone from this to this. Okay, much better, but I'm still seeing some grays in here. So we'll do one more thing, and that's we'll work with levels, and we have worked with levels before. And when you're working in levels, you want to just move these 3 nodes around. So if I pull this node in, it's going to make it much darker. It's going to enhance the black areas. If I pull this one in, it enhances the white areas. And this, you can kind of go back and forth in between. So get this as light as you can, but again, without losing important information. And that's looking pretty good right there. So I've had quite a bit of success with this one. So let's go back to the original again. All right. And then what we have now. Okay. So a much better image that we're going to be able to work with. So at this point, I want to go ahead and save. So I will do a file save as. And we need to take this file into Illustrator, actually. And we're going to do something. We're going to add an effect to it in Illustrator. So this is not going to be my actual project file. So instead of naming it how we normally would, which would be last, first, and then the name of the project, we'll just call this Comic Character Prep. This is our prep file for this. And then go ahead and save it into your folder. And then next time we'll be taking this prep file into Illustrator and doing another effect on it.